Now, you might have heard of Formula One, but the question is, have you heard of Formula 3? Well, it's a little bit different to racing car scenarios, but it is a really important thing in actually growing a phenomenal real estate business. We know that there are 3 specific questions that you need to have a phenomenal answer to. The first question is, how do we actually generate our leads? Now, this is not what you're supposed to do or what you've heard a real estate trainer speak about on stage. This is actually what you really do and what really produces a result. So if we went through the last 100 transactions sitting inside of your organization, how did we actually meet that seller and what do we do to bring them to market? So maybe we met them at an open for inspection just prior to an auction, and then we called them every single time that there was a listing or a sale within a 1.5 kilometer radius. Maybe we're in a position that we had a great conversation with someone at an open house, and naturally they turned into a seller and we listed it that afternoon. But it's really important to understand what the data actually says about how you got to generate your leads, and then to see how that maps across where you're actually spending your time, your money, and effectively all of your resources for lead generation. Because ultimately, your lead acquisition cost is a really important part of what you do. Now, this is interesting because whilst a lot of people are worried about the data play of people wanting to sell you leads, what I actually know is that you've already got all the leads that you'll ever need sitting inside of your database as past clients, past market appraisals, great buyer work, and ultimately being a great pillar of your community. The second question in Formula 3 is to say, okay, great, what do we actually do to win our listings? So how do you win that listing? When you walk into the listing presentation, what do you actually say? Hey, Hannah, you know what? It's lovely to see you here this evening. Before we begin, let me ask you with a very simple question. How can I help? My second question for you, very simply, have you already selected a real estate agent? And ultimately, these are the 3 reasons why people make the decision to use us. This is how we present marketing. This is how we present fee. This is what we actually do to close out that listing presentation while we're there, and we don't even send proposals. Like, you get the idea. That formula is incredibly important to know. Beyond that, we then move to the third thing, which is important as a part of Formula 3, and that's what do we actually do to sell the listing? Well, I always say is a listing is just a liability until it's actually sold. Your ability to be able to get the property sold is really down to your process. So less than 21 days on market that you can actually get a phenomenal result for your client. Now, whether or not that's auction or for sale, what you do around pricing and guides is a really important conversation. How you market a property, whether or not you do off market, whether or not you actually sell on the day, before or after, and really understanding the legislation in your particular state, territory, or country. Why this stuff is so critically important is that often when I go into a business, I will pull aside maybe the newest team member, and I'll pull aside maybe the oldest team member, and I just ask them, say, guys, you work in this particular team, how do we generate our leads, how do we win our listings, and how do we actually sell them? And it's amazing to see the different answers that I get from the very same people who work in the very same team who actually don't have clarity of strategy. When you get this stuff clear, it makes it teachable, it makes it into a position that ultimately you can scale it. And beyond that, you can actually get to a position that you've got a real level of momentum inside of a business because you've got a business built on systems. It's time to get back to Formula 3, and we can't wait to see you win the race of life and becoming a phenomenal real estate agent.